Until they're resolved, they are constantly resonating a stress signal to the hypothalamus in the brain, which then flips the fight or flight response on, and your immune system bottoms out.
Hello, Healing ALS community. I'm Scott Douglas, along here with Patricia Tomowski, and we are the founders of healingals.org. We also have a wonderful guest with us today. Thank you for joining us. We have Dr. Alex Loyd. He's the author of the Healing Codes. And Dr. Alex Loyd has so much information that's important because there are those who have worked these healing codes and not have only stopped the progression of ALS, they have reversed their symptoms. And it's very important that we take some notes and pay attention. Okay, Tish?
Great. Okay, Dr. Loyd, welcome. It's so nice to see you. So how did you originally get involved? Like, tell me the source of this.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Trish and Scott, even though he's off camera now. Thank you for having me. This really started, I was in full-time ministry, and that was my undergraduate degree, and was fairly happy doing that, not completely, but my wife had severe clinical depression. We didn't know that. We didn't know what was wrong. And then after visiting 3 doctors, we found out she had severe clinical depression. I'll never forget, the doctor said, this is the big bad bear of depression, major general depression. It's genetic. She'll have it till the day she dies. There's nothing you can do about it. But the good news, we can manage it with medication. So, you know, we didn't know anything back then, so we thought, well, at least managing with medications sounds good. So for 3 years we tried that, Tish, and for her, you know, they'll try one for a while. If it doesn't work, they'll go to another one like they do with most illnesses and diseases. And we did that, and none of them worked for her, and her side effects were horrible. I mean, I've even quit saying them to people because they cringe and don't want to listen to me anymore. So we started on a 12-year search. We didn't know it was going to be 12 years, you know, but that's what it ended up being. If we had known in advance it was going to be 12 years, I'm not sure we would have done it. But I'm so glad we did. And I flew all over the world, went all over the world. Anyone that had some new thing for depression, I went. I didn't even care if I got ripped off because I thought, you know what? I may get ripped off a few times, but then I may find the thing that has just been uncovered under a rock somewhere that won't be available to the public for another 5 years. So I have no idea. What we totaled it up one time, and we had spent over $100,000 just traveling, trying things, whatever, which is not a lot today, but that was 38 years ago. And then in 2001, I was in Los Angeles Airport. I was there for a seminar on emotional mental health. And I was in the airport waiting to come home, and my cell phone rang, and it was Hope. Only she didn't say anything. Hope, my wife, only she didn't say anything. I knew it was her. I could see the number. She was trying to talk to me, Tish. She literally couldn't get words to come out of her mouth. She was in our house in Nashville, sitting on the floor, the hardwood floor in the bedroom, in her nightgown with a blanket pulled over her head, weeping and paralyzed where she'd been all night long. And I just, honey, I love you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm on my way home. We're going to find a solution to this. I promise this is not going to be the rest of your life. And it was on that plane that the download or inspiration or whatever you want to call it for the healing codes happened. I took notes for 3 hours till we got to Nashville, and her depression was gone in 45 minutes. It came back I don't want to mislead anybody. By the time she had done the healing, it didn't have a name then, but we call it the healing codes now. By the time she had done it for 3 weeks, her depression was gone and it's never come back. And that was well over 30 years ago. And then on Monday morning, I took it into my practice, and everything people had started healing. And I thought, man, this is great. I feel like I'm in heaven. And then a lady came in. Sorry for the long answer. The rest of them won't be this long. But and this lady came in that I was working with for anxiety, and she had this really scowled look on her face, and said, "I've got a question for you." And I said, "Oh, okay, what is it?" And she said, "I don't remember telling you that I had MS, multiple sclerosis." And I said, so I thought, okay, what is this, a legal question? What's going on here? And so I just asked her that. I said, her name, what's going on? And then she busted and just started weeping. And she said, "I just drove here from Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville, where they ran all the tests, and told me that if they were testing me today for the first time, they would never say that I have MS, that I have no symptoms, I have no markers, nothing." And that was really the first time, Tish, that I thought this might be more than just mental, emotional. And then since then, we've had people report to us their healing of virtually anything and everything you could name.
Wow, that's incredible. All right. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to Dr. Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
When you met him, and tell me about that.
Yeah, I met Ben. I was doing a seminar at some big hotel in Atlanta on the healing codes, and unbeknownst to me, Dr. Ben was there. He had a medical clinic that he owned and was the director of in Atlanta, and after the seminar, he came up and talked to me and told me that he had ALS, and that later, he didn't tell me this at the time, but later he would tell me that at that time he was trying to figure out a way to support his family after he died. That was his main mission. He had no hope of healing. And he asked me if I would work with him, and I said sure. And so I started working with him almost immediately once I got back to Nashville home. And 6 weeks later, Dr. Ben was symptom-free and was never symptomatic again.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Dr. Ben allowed you to share a little personal information. What specifically? How did you do this? Like, if you had to kind of go in a short format, and then you're going to go into exactly how the healing codes work. But since our audience right now is a lot of people with ALS, MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, tell me how, what did you do for ALS?
Yeah, first of all, he shocked me. I went to his house after that. We started becoming friends, and I went to his house, and we were on a soccer field watching one of his a niece or nephew or something play soccer, and it was summertime, so he had shorts on and a short sleeve shirt, and we were sitting in two chairs side by side watching the game and talking about ALS, and he was describing to me what it is and all that sort of thing, and he said, "Look," and he pointed down to his leg in shorts, his bare leg. And I was so shocked, I literally fell back in my chair on the ground. It looked like there were worms crawling all over his leg and his arms. And he said, "Those are fasciculations, and it's It's one of the symptoms of ALS, and he also he was always in great shape. Ben was always in great physical shape. He jogged 4 miles the morning that he died with no problem.
Right, and that was like 17 years later. So just so
17
everybody
years later,
understands, he
right.
he did reverse ALS, and he completely unrelated. He passed away for something completely unrelated. It was an accident, essentially. So
Yeah, he never had ALS again. But anyway, what we worked on with Ben, and he did give me permission to share this publicly. We never worked on the ALS. We worked on his relationship with his dad, which was the big negative traumatic event of his life. He felt like his dad never loved him, never accepted him. He said, I felt like an outsider in my own family. He actually became a medical doctor to try to impress his dad so that his dad would accept him, which didn't work. But we worked on his issues, his traumatic and life issues related to his dad. Primarily, there were some others, but that was the main one. And when that healed, the ALS started getting better. We kept working on a few other people and situations, and then he was completely symptom-free
wow, in 6 weeks.
in 6 weeks.
Okay, all right. Now we want details. How many ALS patients have you worked with, like in general, and what kind of results have you gotten?
Yeah, I haven't kept a running total on that. My guess it's about 30. We've had 6 who have reversed. I think completely or almost completely. A number of others have had their symptoms stop and not progress. And then there's been some others that it's progressed, but much, much slower. And then we've had 2 or 3 that have died. So that's been our experience.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so let's. Those are really good statistics. So tell us more about the healing codes in more detail.
Well, what do you want to know? It's the healing codes is the discovery, and to my knowledge, it's not been discovered before. 4 healing centers on the body that, when you activate them in the correct sequence for a specific problem, and the sequence is different for different issues, it removes the stress from the body. And in the body, the immune system and stress are tied together. As stress goes down, immune system goes up. As stress goes up, immune system goes down. In fact, according to the Center for Disease Control, 90+% of all illness and disease is directly related to stress. On a research study right on their website, according to Stanford University and Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist there, it's 95+%. And you know, we have stressors from all sorts of things. We have stressors from what we eat. We have stressors from our physical circumstances. We have stressors related to other people. We have stressors related to money. But most of those are transitory. Most of those come and go. However, your traumas and memories that contain anger, or low self-worth, or irritation, or frustration, or I can't do it, I'm not good enough, or I'm not talented enough, or I'm not something enough, or whatever. We used to think those memories just sort of, unless we were thinking about them, behaved themselves and sat in the corner and didn't do anything. Now, today, we know nothing could be further from the truth. Until they're resolved, they are constantly resonating a stress signal to the hypothalamus in the brain, which then flips the fight or flight response on, and your immune system bottoms out. Because fight or flight's only supposed to come on 2 or 3 times a year when a truck is about to pull over on you on the highway or something like, when your life is in imminent mortal physical danger in the next 15 minutes. It's not supposed to be activated any other way or any other time. And then as soon as the emergency's gone, you go right back to physiological peace and healthy functioning. The latest research says we're going into fight or flight. The average person's going into fight or flight stress not 2 to 3 times a year, but 5 to 15 times a day. We're living there, and we're not built to live there. And so that suppresses the immune system, and then you're wide open. Then it's not a matter of are you going to have some health incident occur, it's when. And what will it be? For Dr. Ben, it was ALS. For my wife, it was clinical depression. For me, it was acid reflux and chronic migraine headaches. It's different for each person. But when you remove the stress, then the immune system comes up like the Hulk and starts healing things that seem miraculous at times. It's not miraculous. It's that your immune system was suppressed. You never even would have gotten that if your immune system wasn't suppressed. So I believe the main thing the healing codes do is that when you activate these 4 healing centers in the correct sequence for the correct issue, it pulls the anger out of that memory. It pulls the low self-worth out of that memory. For Dr. Ben, it pulled the feeling that he didn't measure up and wasn't good enough because of his dad's opinion of him out of his heart and mind, to where now he felt like, hey, Dad was just wrong. I measure up. I'm just as good as other people. And going along with that, his immune system skyrocketed, and that's what healed his ALS, was when his immune system went from suppressed to functioning the way it's supposed to. But and that's one of the reasons, Tish, that I'm so big on mental, emotional, and always have been. That's why I got a doctorate in that, is I believe that underlies everything. And as that goes, you go, and if it heals, everything gets better. If your mental emotional is not where it needs to be, everything gets worse.
Great. So you have your PhD in psychology, and you also have a whole bunch of peer-reviewed papers that universities have done on the healing code. How do people see that?
Yeah, if you go to our website, which is my name, dralexanderloyd.com, and remember, Loyd is 1 L, the 2 L's are all crooks. That's a joke. And the top left tab, I believe, says research. And if you click on that, you can read, and there's been 33 double-blind university independent studies, almost all of them published in peer-reviewed journals in the United States, Europe, and Asia. And those 33 double-blind studies studied 117 different life issues, physical, mental, emotional, blood pressure, blood sugar, heart rate variability, anxiety, relationships, body image, about everything you can name. And the important thing about that to me, Tish, is, and because if you understand studies, this will resonate with you. There's never been one study done that said it didn't work. And on almost everything, if there's 10 studies that said it worked, there's 2 or 3 that said it didn't. With the healing codes, there's never been a study anywhere that said it didn't work. Every study ever done said it worked significantly. And there were 2 university studies done comparing the healing codes to the most popular counseling and therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and they found it works better at a fraction of the price and a fraction of the time.
Fantastic. That sounds really good. Tell me, what are the 4 healing centers of the body?
Yeah, the first one is right here. I call it the bridge. It's where your eyebrows would grow together if they grew together. All of them are about the size of a $50 an old U.S. half dollar. The second one is called the Adam's apple. It's where your Adam's apple is. If you're a lady and don't feel an Adam's apple, it's about 2/3 of the way up your throat. The third one is called the jaw. It's the back bottom corner of the jawbone on both sides of the head or face. And the last one is called the temple, and it's where your temples are. And you activate those with your fingertips. And interestingly, from about an inch or two away. It's the same principle as a spark plug, where the arc is more powerful than actually touching. And so, and by the way, if you got a laser pointer and put it through those healing centers, it would hit the control mechanisms for every cell in your body. So those are the 4 healing centers. That's how you activate them. And the key is the right sequence for the right problem.
Okay. And now you have trained how many practitioners?
Over 500 all over the world. We have clients in all 50 states, 184 countries. The Healing Code book was #1 bestseller nationally in 7 countries, a top 10 bestseller in 22 others, and that was almost all by word of mouth. Someone would get it and they would try the codes, it would work for them, and they would give the book to somebody else. But the codes that we do working with people are much more powerful than those. They are custom codes for custom problems.
Okay. So do you have to be able to remember the event? What if it's something that you've completely forgotten?
No, you don't. First of all, we have a way to find sort of the key event, the event that will push the button. We call it the Memory Finder Protocol, and we do that with every single client we have. But no, the short answer is no, you don't, because all of your memories at the root are connected. Even if you don't see the connection, they're all connected at the root. And so if you work on what you know, which is in this case with Dr. Ben, I've got ALS, and the biggest issue of my life was my dad. That's all he had to know. And that's what we worked on until when he thought about his relationship with his dad, it no longer bothered him. And that was for the first time in his life.
Wow, that's really impressive. So we met Dr. Ben Johnson because we interviewed him quite a few years ago. And we did a test on the healing code. Mm-hmm. And I was just shocked because I had this very traumatic event that had happened 8 years before that I could not think about without crying. And in 6 minutes, he gave me 3 codes. We spent 2 minutes on each code. In 6 minutes, my trauma level on that, which had gone down in 8 years, it would have been a 10 if you'd asked me at the time, and it went down to about an 8. But it wasn't running my life. I was living my life, but obviously it was still there. And every time it came to mind, I would cry. And in 6 minutes, he brought it down to a 0. Yeah. And I didn't forget the event.
Right, no, right.
I remembered it. I could actually talk about it. Well, I could never talk about it without crying. I remembered everything, but somehow the emotional, it went away. And I was just shocked at in 6 minutes, something that had been bothering me, not at the top of my mind, but certainly in there somewhere, was gone.
Yeah, that always happens. Not always in 6 minutes, but that pretty much always happens.
Well, that sounds really exciting. So, thank you. Where's the best way? What do you want to add?
Oh, the reason I'm here, the short version. After about 6 years of the healing codes, we had people coming to us from all over the world. I hired all kinds of people, and we still couldn't keep up. And I was burning out. I was working about 80 hours a week, and I thought, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. We'd made a lot of money, whatever. And I got a call from a lady in Oklahoma who was desperate. She had a 12-year-old son who had been diagnosed with leukemia. and had been in treatment at St. Jude's basically since he was 6 months old for leukemia. Had all kinds of surgeries, chemo, radiation, radioactive iodine, you name it. And it had come back. And so she asked me for help, and I gave her a code to start on, and then I sent her all the codes. This was 20 years ago, so I FedExed it. You don't do that today, but it really resonated with me because my oldest son Harry was 12 years old at that time, and I pictured him having leukemia and going through all that. Anyway, so I worked with them, gave them everything they needed, and then 3 months later, I was in their hometown of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, with Dr. Ben. We were lecturing there, and there were probably 500-600 people there. And after it was over, there was a long line of people waiting to come up and say hi or ask a question or whatever. And I noticed there was this little kid in line. And I'd been watching him the whole time because we never had 12-year-olds come to those seminars. If so, they were bored out of their mind. But he seemed very patient, and he seemed to be paying attention. And then he waited in line for over an hour to get up to shake our hand. And he had a wad of papers in his hand. And he got up to me, and I got down on my knees to be at face level with him. And he said, "Hi, Dr. Loyd. My name's Christopher Ryan, and I wanted to bring you my test results from St. Jude's." And then his mother got up there, and she was hugging me and saying it's a miracle, it's a miracle. And then she told me that when she had talked to me, they had an appointment to go back to St. Jude's in 12 days and start all the treatments again. And Christopher had come into their room, she and her husband, the night before, and said, "Mom, Dad, I don't know if I can do this again." And he'd been throwing up for weeks, hadn't been in school, pale, lying on the couch all the time, couldn't eat. And they just tried to love on him and encourage him, and then he went back to bed, and then they looked at each other and said, "We don't know if we can do this again either." And she said they started doing the codes the next day, and in 12 days, Christopher came into their room, and she said his color came back, he was back at school, he was eating with no problem, and Christopher came back and said, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I think I'm healed. I've never felt this good." And she said, "We were happy, but, we had been through so much. You don't just take that at face value." So we went back to St. Jude's, and they put those papers in my hand and said, "This is our gift to you." And it was CT scan clear, MRI clear, upper GI clear, lower GI clear, completely symptom-free. No markers, no nothing. And he never relapsed. Today, he's 32 years old, happily married, with children, living his life like a happy, normal person. And so when that happened, I went to Hope, my wife, and I said, if we can have one more Christopher, it's worth anything to me. So that's why I'm here.
Well, I think you've had thousands. I mean, Dr. Ben isn't the only person. I mean, he would have passed away, and instead he lived a totally full life for another 17 years. So, actually, you had a couple of slides. Do you want to show me your slides?
Back when we were getting started, I knew, okay, I've got to first of all understand the cause and source of illness and disease myself if I'm going to teach this or write a book or whatever. And then secondly, I've got to be able to communicate it. And so I started studying biology and quantum physics and all that sort of thing. And what I came up with was this, and I'm going to teach all of it at the one we're going to do later today. But basically, the little red part in the middle that looks sort of like a fetus or something, that's not a fetus. That is your mitochondria. And there's a mitochondria in every cell in your body, and the mitochondria is the energy power plant for that cell. And the inner circle right around that red fetus looking thing is a cell, and you've got trillions of them. And so if that cell, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton at Stanford Medical School, every cell in your body at any given time is either in growth mode or it's closed in self-protection mode. If it's in growth mode, it heals, it shares, it reproduces, it does the job it's supposed to do. If it's a liver cell, it cleans your blood. If it's a brain cell, it does, intellectual functioning and all that, control mechanisms and all that. It brings in oxygen and nutrition. It releases waste and things that will make the cell toxic over time. And everything's great. And actually what the research says is if the cell stays in that state, it theoretically would never die. Ever. The problem is they do age over time because we go from growth to self-protect and then back to growth and back to self-protect and stuff like that. But always the problem with a disease is that the cell is closed, so it becomes toxic. And when it becomes toxic, the mitochondria doesn't produce the energy it's supposed to for the cell, which means it starts to die. And if that doesn't change pretty quickly, the odds go through the roof that a disease gene will unmask and manifest that never would have happened any other way. And so the key to, I believe, all illness and disease, including ALS, is what you're looking at right now. It's keeping that cell healthy and open, and the mitochondria producing power the way it's supposed to. And by the way, if the cell has a disease gene unmasked and become active, and then you heal that trauma or whatever it is that caused it to close, and now it opens, and now the mitochondria starts wiggling and producing energy again, usually the disease gene remasks and becomes inactive. And I believe that's exactly what happened to Dr. Ben, and that's what he believed too. And the other thing I'll say about this right now, we're going to explain it all later, is that over 20 years, I probably taught this to 50 medical doctors, and 48 of them had never heard of it in their life. And some of them were very skeptical of it and said, I'm not sure you're accurate about this. But I ask them one thing: go back and look at your books, go back and research, and then tell me after that if you believe I'm wrong. And Trish, every one of them has come back and said, this is correct. In fact, some of them were really irritated and said, I can't believe I wasn't taught this in medical school. They should be teaching this in medical school. But they're not. I don't know the reason. Maybe it has something to do with that whole medicine pharmaceutical loop. I don't know. I'm not accusing that. But for some reason, this is not being taught, and it's critical.
Okay, great. And so I'm just going to share the second slide real quick and give me a very quick one on this one. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is slide 2.
Yeah, this is you. And up on the right, something happens in your circumstances. It can be someone punches you in the nose. It could be somebody looks at you funny. It could be the stock market goes down. It could be anything. And it comes in through your 5 senses. And in a microsecond, it's compared to every memory of your life, and a lot of them passed down from your ancestry. And if there is a memory there that your mind decides is somehow, and it's very liberal with this, is somehow related to this unhealed trauma memory in your mind, it flips the stress switch on. It puts you into fight or flight. And then it goes back through your five senses and you have a reaction to that event, which very often is a negative reaction that you never should have had. You got angry when you shouldn't have gotten angry. You're in anxiety when you should not be in anxiety. And it's all because those traumas or memories have not been resolved or healed. I saw a new research study recently and an article about it. I think it was Jordan Peterson, but I'm not sure on that. I need to check it. But the title struck me. The title of the article, Tish, was Adverse Childhood Experiences Are the Reason. But it didn't say the reason for what. And then when you read the study, basically what it's saying is it's the reason for everything. For all disease, all illness, all anxiety, all depression, all your problems. And if you can resolve that trauma or memory that has negative emotion in it, your immune system will come back up and virtually anything can heal. And I've been teaching that, but without that double-blind study, for 30 years. And I believe that with all my heart. And I know there's loads of people that would disagree with me about that. No, it's not your emotions and mental and all. But I believe the science is on my side.
Yeah, I agree. Because this is the other thing. It might not even be from your childhood. It could be generation that you got from your grandparents, because now they've got studies from the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the Holocaust survivors, and they've proven that they have these fears from grandparents that they never met.
Yeah, they've
So
also...
it's fascinating.
Yeah, and probably about 10 years ago, these studies came out saying that memories, especially trauma memories, are passed down in the sperm and the RNA.
Wow.
And it's not maybe, it's for sure. And one of the articles, one of the double-blind study articles, the title of it was Send Messages to Future Generations. And then the study and article were saying, if you clean up your junk, then you're going to pass down good stuff to your kids and grandkids that's going to make them healthier, happier. But if you don't clean up your junk, you're going to pass down traumas, and it's going to make their life harder, possibly illness, disease, etc. And the more the science comes out, Tish, the more it confirms this.
Wow. That's a great way to end this. Thank you so much. This has been extremely helpful. And I think that, with people with ALS, boy, guys, you can heal yourself. And when you heal yourself, it's going to actually affect positively your children and your grandchildren. How exciting.
I just want to say thank you so much for what you're doing, because working and traveling with Dr. Ben all over the world for 4 years, I developed a heart for people with this horrible disease. And you're one of the few groups of people, in my opinion, that's really addressing this in a meaningful, impactful way at the source, not just symptoms. So thank you for what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm going to thank you so much. I'm going to let Scott come back in and say hello, say goodbye. And,
yes, I was right here all the time, but it's better that I'm out of frame, because our two heads bumping each other together throughout this would,
But you're beautiful together.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
anyway, just to let them know, they can go to healingals.org, go to recordings, because this is past recordings, and they will be able to log in and see the question and answer that we're going to do with the Healing ALS community. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for being here. It's amazing. And thank you for the depth that you go into the individual, because that emotional trauma is real. and that is so overlooked in the allopathic world. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you both so much.